Joining us right now is our buddy, our pal, our friend, Tucker Carlson, editor of the Daily Caller and co-host of Fox News Channel's Fox and Friends Weekend. Hey, Tucker.
Good morning, gentlemen.
I noted with great interest this weekend on Fox and Friends Weekend that you took up the question of Fairfax County's public schools' new discrimination policy, including transgendered individuals. And you said, and I'm quoting you, that the policies are a war on biology and the scientific method. This has become a national story. That's why you picked it up on Fox. What's your take on what's going on over there?
Well, obviously, I feel sorry for anybody who feels like he's stuck in the wrong body. I mean, that's a major psychological problem, and I feel bad. I'm not mad about that. I'm mad about the amount of time that school districts are spending on an issue that affects, hundredths of 1% of their students. You'd love to see this much energy go into, say, the curriculum or teacher performance, but it goes into the trendy sort of disability of the moment, and that is something that hurts all the rest of the kids. So one, I'm just disgusted by how frivolous it is, and obviously we're in this moment of national hysteria on the question, and it's sad to see schools caught up in it. But my core problem with it is the deceit involved. You can't change your sex. It's biologically impossible. I wish you could. I wish you could change your sex and your height and your eye color and your predisposition to alcoholism and all kinds of things that are baked in the cake when you're born. I believe in the individual and in choice, but you can't. So it's better to have a reality-based view of the world and a science-based curriculum that tells kids the truth about what's immutable and what's changeable.
What about this idea that has been thrown out there by school board member Ryan McElveen, a guy who I think bears a lot of watching, who says that, look, it's the Department of Education that is suggesting that we do this. Everybody's going to have to do this.
Well, somebody should stand up and say, this is ridiculous. I mean, we've got a school to run, and a huge percentage of the kids can't even speak English. And the world is ever more competitive, and our job is to prepare these kids for a life beyond this school. And so let's get down to the task of doing so and stop getting distracted by whatever trendy nonsense Diane Sawyer's putting on TV. I mean, this, whether it's bullying or how girls are being overlooked or ADHD or Common Core or, whatever it is, whatever the trend of the moment is, captures the attention of educators entirely. And it leaves you with the impression that maybe they're kind of mediocre people with short attention spans, lacking a basic dedication to educating kids. And that's just depressing. It's scary to think people like that are running our schools.
Hey, Tucker, I thought of you last week as I saw the news cycle pick up this issue out of Garland, Texas, the Draw a Cartoon of Muhammad contest. And it was amazing to me. We had a terror attack there with two people who were affiliated with ISIS, armed to the teeth. They were thankfully killed, but the conversation was about Pamela Geller and whether she was the cause of the problem.
Exactly.
Knowing how much you love free expression, I'd love to hear your take on how the media covered it.
It's just like everything. It's just like the schools in Fairfax County. Ignore the shiny objects flashing before your eyes and keep your eyes on the point. And the point here is you do have a right to express your views no matter how unattractive or unpopular they are, and nobody else has a right to murder you for expressing them, period. That's the essence of the First Amendment, and it's what separates America from the rest of the world, even the Western world. We're the only country with the First Amendment. It really does make us unique, literally unique, and we ought to protect it at all costs. And so to get distracted by Pamela Geller, Pamela Geller, I know Pamela Geller. Yes, she's off-putting, obviously. That's kind of the whole point of Pamela Geller. But that's not the point at all of this story, which, as you pointed out, is that two wackos tried to murder her for giving her opinion. The press ought to be up in arms on her side, in her defense, because, of course, they're one of the chief beneficiaries of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Well, I get that. You say that Pamela Geller is off-putting. I do not personally know Pamela Geller, so I'll take your word for it. But the fact remains that, nobody denies that they had the right to do it. But in society, don't we have a responsibility to use the First Amendment responsibly?
Well, I think we have an obligation to be polite and decent to one another.
I do too.
A Christian obligation to do that. That's my personal view. But we're talking not about my Christian obligation or yours. We're talking about the Bill of Rights, which in its first section guarantees the most important right of all, and that is of speech and also of religion. So, that's the most important thing. Yeah, of course I agree with you. And of course I don't think you ought to go sticking your finger in other people's eyes for no reason or attacking their religion. I would never do that. I think it's appalling behavior, and you're not welcome to dinner at my house if you do that. But again, that's not the point. The point is the First Amendment is bigger than all of our manners. It's the thing that keeps this country American, and we ought to protect it no matter what.
All right, Tucker, it's time to check in with you on the presidential politics for 2016, as it seems to be a daily thing. And boy, at what point are we going to just get tired of talking about these people before there's even a vote cast, right?
December of 16, probably.
Jeb Bush gave an interview, and he, of course, when you talk about Jeb Bush, one of the big issues he's going to have in the caucus and primary process is his stance on illegal immigration. Take a listen to this.
There's got to be a point where we fix this system so that legal immigration is easier than illegal immigration, and show some respect for people, a kid that might have been here 10 years, that may be a valedictorian of their high school, to say, no, you're not allowed to go to college. I just think there's a point past which we're over the line.
All right, how is that going to fly in Iowa?
You're not allowed to go to college at public expense. Nobody is denying anybody the right to go to college. The question is, should taxpayers pay for someone who's breaking the law to go to college? It's not Jeb Bush's problem. It's the problem of rich people in general. They're totally, and Jeb Bush is certainly in that category, they're totally cut off from the downsides of illegal immigration. They see the upside, which is, everyone likes immigrants and you get cheap help and cheap labor, and it's all good. But if you're at the lower end of the scale and your kids are actually in school with a bunch of other kids who can't speak English, who come from disorganized families, and they're not getting educated as a result, or you have to actually use the emergency room at a public hospital, or if you're, you know what I mean, you're living in a neighborhood.
Or you be someone who's looking for a job and you can't get it because the immigrants come over and they'll work for cheap.
Yeah, if you're in the middle class and your wages haven't moved in 40 years, and it's like we let in more legal immigrants by a factor of 4 than any other country in the world. So don't call us ungenerous. It's not actually that difficult. And to lecture the rest of us on how we're hard-hearted is a little much, especially when you're worth $20 million or something. I mean, I like Jeb Bush. I'm not attacking Jeb Bush, but that attitude, which is very common in Washington, is one of the reasons that the middle class hates Washington and hates the leadership of the parties, because they have this totally cut-off worldview.
Well, also, let's turn to Carly Fiorina, who announced last week. She's getting a lot of attention. And I listened to Ruth Marcus of the Washington Post, who actually makes the case that she's getting a free pass here and she's being taken seriously because she's a woman.
I entirely, completely disagree. I don't think we would be taking her seriously at all if she weren't a woman. And that is, I would love to see a woman president.
Well, what about Hillary Clinton in that context?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ruth Marcus is right. I mean, I disagree with her on a lot, but she's making an honest point, and I'm sure she's taking a lot of crap for it, but she's telling the truth. And on the other hand, I got to say, as someone who interviewed Carly Fiorina twice recently, she's pretty impressive, actually.
She is.
At least on a rhetorical level. She's a great talker. I came away from interviewing her really impressed. So, I don't know.
And how often do you say that about Republican candidates at the national
never. They're not even native English speakers, some of them.
All right, Tucker.
That's where the English for the second language thing can be a good deal.
That's right.
Exactly.
Thanks, Tucker.
Thanks, Tucker. Talk to you soon.